wins another championship, but he gets to a few more finals. Like, do you believe this cemented it, that he's a top 3 player ever? MJ, Magic, LeBron. I mean, where do you have him now this morning?
Well, great question. Well, for me, so when LeBron left, I was one of the people that was just kind of upset because I was saying, LeBron, if you win one championship in Cleveland, you have earned your stripes. Don't listen to all these people out here. Just win one in Cleveland if you could do that.
Chris Webber just said what nobody in the NBA had the guts to say. In a moment that's already shaking the basketball world, the Hall of Famer didn't hold back, calling out LeBron James directly about his constant GOAT declarations. "Stop calling yourself the GOAT," Webber fired off, his voice dripping with frustration that's been building for years. And what he said next, it's got the entire league picking sides. This isn't just another hot take. This is a legend dismantling another legend's legacy, piece by piece. And the fallout is just beginning. You think you've seen NBA drama before? Wait until you hear what went down in this interview. Because Chris Webber didn't just question LeBron's greatness. He exposed something way deeper about how we talk about legacy in 2025. And trust me, by the end of this, you're going to see the GOAT debate in a completely different light.
I've never heard one of the greatest say they were the greatest of all time. That was very interesting to me. Kevin, what are your thoughts?
Oof, man. You know what? It's one thing. We all sit at this table all the time and sing his praises. Yeah. I think LeBron is a great player. Yeah. I just think that's disrespectful, honestly, to Bill Russell. What did Bill Russell do? Won every time. He said, all right, fellas, you want to win? Come with me. We'll go on the floor. That's what this game's all about. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be just another interview. Early January 2025, Chris Webber sits down with a sports podcast that's been gaining traction for getting real, unfiltered takes from NBA legends. The conversation starts casual enough, talking about the current playoff race, some young players making noise, the usual stuff. Webber's relaxed, laughing, giving thoughtful answers like he always does. Then the host throws out what seems like a softball question. What do you think about LeBron's legacy at this stage of his career? The room shifts. You can see it in Webber's face. His smile fades. His jaw tightens just slightly. There's this pause, this moment where you know something real is about to come out. And Chris Webber, a guy who's always been measured, always been diplomatic, leans forward and says something that would break the internet within minutes. "I'm going to say something that needs to be said," Webber starts, his voice steady but with an edge nobody expected. "Stop calling yourself the GOAT. Just stop." The host's eyes go wide. The producers in the background freeze, because everyone knows exactly who he's talking about. And Webber, he's just getting started. "When did it become okay for players to crown themselves?" he continues, his frustration now fully visible. "When did humility die in this league? Because the greatest players I ever watched, and I mean the real legends, they never had to tell you they were the greatest. The game told you. The culture told you. Your peers told you. You didn't have to post it on social media every other week." Within 10 minutes of that clip hitting Twitter, it had over 2 million views. Within an hour, Chris Webber and LeBron were the top 2 trending topics worldwide. The battle lines were being drawn, and there was no going back.
That's what I meant.
Would be the.
I know what I said, but you know what I meant.
No, I don't.
Come on, man. You players pick it up.
0-5.
Since he bought these bombs y'all be showing every week. Who can't? LeBron, one of the greatest ever, can't give me 25 points. KD, one of the greatest ever, can't give me 25 points. Anthony Davis, 8 rebounds.
That's easy.
Devin Booker, 1 3. Are you kidding me?
Hey, LeBron, by the way, 3 threes away from passing Kyle Korver.
Ooh, Kyle Korver.
Here's what makes this moment so explosive. It wasn't random. Chris Webber has been watching this unfold for years, and if you go back and really look, the signs were there. Let's talk about who Chris Webber is for a second. This is a guy who was part of the legendary Fab Five at Michigan, someone who revolutionized the power forward position, a 5-time NBA All-Star who could do everything on the court. But Webber's career also came with its share of controversy and heartbreak, the timeout that wasn't there, the injuries, the what could have been narrative that followed him. He knows what it's like to be scrutinized, to have your legacy questioned, to fight for respect. And that's exactly why his words cut so deep. Because LeBron James has spent the last few years doing something that's divided the basketball world. He's been declaring himself the GOAT. Not subtly, not occasionally, constantly. After big wins, he tweets it. In press conferences, he hints at it. On social media, his brand pushes it relentlessly. "I'm the greatest basketball player of all time," he said after breaking the scoring record. "There's no debate anymore," he posted after another playoff run. And look, LeBron's resume is undeniable. 4 championships, 4 MVPs, all-time leading scorer, 2 decades of dominance. The man's been to 10 NBA Finals. He's carried franchises on his back. Nobody's denying his greatness. But here's where Chris Webber's frustration comes from, and it's something that's been bubbling under the surface in NBA circles for a while now. There's this growing feeling among older players, among purists, that something's been lost, that the respect for the game's history, for the legends who came before, has been replaced by this constant self-promotion machine. Magic Johnson never called himself the GOAT, neither did Larry Bird. Even Michael Jordan, the guy most people consider the undisputed greatest, rarely proclaimed it himself during his playing days. He led 6 championships and a flawless finals record do the talking. Kobe Bryant, who had every reason to crown himself, spent his entire career chasing Jordan's ghost, but he never once told you he'd caught it. That was the code. That was the respect. And somewhere along the way, that code got broken. Webber had actually hinted at this before, but nobody caught it. In a 2024 interview that barely made waves, he talked about how the new generation needs to understand the difference between confidence and arrogance. In another podcast appearance months earlier, when asked about player empowerment, he said, "Sometimes I wonder if we've empowered egos more than we've empowered the actual game." People brushed it off as old-school thinking, but Webber was building to something, and in January 2025, he finally said it out loud. Here's the thing nobody's talking about.
Yes. Agree with Giannis.
Of course. Now, look, if you want to say the GOAT status is solely based on rings, I don't have an argument because 6 is more than 4. But that's the only time you use that argument because Russell has more. There's several other Celtics that have more than 6, and you never include them in the GOAT discussion. But I believe LeBron James has played better longer than any other player in the history. And if you look at the teams that he's lost to, you tell me the team.
Let me give you the full quote, because the headlines don't do it justice. After that initial "stop calling yourself the GOAT" moment, Webber went deeper, and it got uncomfortable real fast. Listen, I respect everything LeBron's accomplished, everything, but there's a way to carry greatness, and there's a way to perform greatness, Webber explained, his tone measured but firm. When you constantly have to tell people you're the greatest, when your entire brand is built around convincing everyone you're the GOAT, when every post-game interview becomes a referendum on your legacy, that's not how legends operate. He didn't stop there. You know what Michael Jordan did. He destroyed you on the court and walked away. You know what Kobe did. He dropped 60 in his last game and said, "Mamba out." They didn't need to convince you. The performances were so undeniable that the debate happened around them, not because of them. That's the difference. You don't crown yourself. The culture crowns you. The host tried to push back, asking if maybe it's just a generational difference, if maybe LeBron's just more comfortable expressing his confidence. But Webber wasn't having it. Confidence is saying, "I can beat anyone." Confidence is showing up in big moments and delivering. But this, Webber shook his head, this is something else. This is needing validation so badly that you can't let a week go by without reminding everyone of your greatness. And you know what that tells me? It tells me you're not secure in your legacy yet, because if you were, you wouldn't need to say it. That line, "you wouldn't need to say it," that's the one that really detonated the internet. But Webber had one more point to make, and this one hit even harder. We're comparing eras we can't compare. LeBron plays in an era where the game's different, the rules are different, the competition's different, and that's fine. Every era is unique. But when you start declaring yourself the greatest across all eras, when you put yourself above guys who played in tougher defensive leagues, who didn't have the luxury of choosing their teammates, who didn't have social media to control their narrative, that's when you lose me. That's when you lose a lot of us who actually lived through those eras. The interview went on for another 15 minutes, but those were the bombs. Those were the quotes that would be replayed, debated, and dissected for weeks to come.
Within hours, social media became a war zone. And I mean that literally. It was like watching two armies clash in real time. LeBron's fan base came out swinging. Weber's just jealous, thousands of tweets screamed. He never won a ring and can't stand that LeBron has 4. The comparisons were brutal. People pulled up Weber's career stats, his playoff failures, that infamous timeout. This is a man who choked in the biggest moment of his career, talking about legacy, one viral tweet read, racking up 200,000 likes. But the old school crowd, they rallied behind Weber like he'd just spoken gospel truth. Finally, someone said it, read comment after comment. We've all been thinking this for years. Older fans started posting compilations of every time LeBron had referred to himself as the GOAT, and the list was long. Every Instagram post, every press conference soundbite, every documentary moment where LeBron positioned himself as the greatest ever, it all got compiled and circulated. Current NBA players found themselves in an impossible position. Do you defend LeBron and risk looking like you're against honest criticism? Do you stay silent and risk both sides coming after you? A few young stars tried to play diplomat. I love both of these legends, one all-star tweeted. Let's just appreciate greatness. The responses? Pick a side or shut up. The podcasts went crazy. Every NBA show dedicated entire episodes to breaking down what Weber said. Stephen A. Smith's reaction video alone got 5 million views in the first day. Former players started chiming in, some supporting Weber's point about humility, others defending LeBron's right to claim his greatness. But here's what made this different from your typical NBA Twitter drama. This wasn't going away. This wasn't a 48-hour news cycle thing, because Weber had touched something real, something that had been festering in the basketball community for years. The memes came fast. Screenshots of LeBron's Chosen One tattoo, side-by-side comparisons of MJ letting his game speak versus LeBron's social media proclamations, fake movie posters of GOAT Wars, The Legacy Strikes Back. And through it all, one question kept getting asked. What's LeBron gonna say about this? Because what happened next changed everything. But here's what most people are missing in all the noise and the Twitter battles and the hot takes. Chris Webber wasn't really just talking about LeBron. He was exposing something much bigger, a fundamental shift in how we view and construct greatness in the modern era. Think about it. We're living in a time where your legacy isn't just about what you do on the court anymore. It's about your brand. It's about your social media presence. It's about controlling the narrative before anyone else can define it for you. And in that world, can you really blame a player for taking their legacy into their own hands? LeBron grew up watching how the media tore apart athletes. He saw what they did to Allen Iverson, how they questioned Kobe for years, how they tried to diminish his early championships. So LeBron did something revolutionary. He decided he wouldn't let the media write his story. He'd write it himself. I'm the GOAT isn't just confidence, it's a strategic move to control the conversation. But Weber's point, and this is where it gets really interesting, is that in trying to control the legacy conversation, you might actually be cheapening it, because greatness has always been something bestowed, not something claimed. It's why we respect Muhammad Ali's "I am the greatest" differently. He said it, but he also backed it up in ways that transcended the sport itself. He made you believe it not because he said it, but because everything he did made it impossible to deny. The difference between earning respect and demanding it, that's what this is really about. And it speaks to a generational divide that goes way beyond basketball. Older generations were taught that humility and letting your work speak for itself was the ultimate form of confidence. The new generation was taught that if you don't promote yourself, if you don't claim your greatness loudly and repeatedly, someone else will define you first. Neither approach is necessarily wrong, but they're incompatible, and that's why this Webber-LeBron moment matters so much. Because what Magic Johnson and Larry Bird never had to deal with was social media. They played in an era where your greatness was determined by the people who watched you, by your peers, by the historians who would look back decades later. The mythology built itself. Michael Jordan became the GOAT not because he told you he was, but because every time you watched him play, you couldn't imagine anyone being better. But in 2025, if you don't control your narrative, someone else will. If you don't constantly remind people of your greatness, the algorithm moves on, the news cycle shifts, the next young star starts trending. And maybe that's what LeBron understood that others didn't. In this era, silence isn't golden. Silence is forgotten. Webber's from a different time, a time when you could let a 30-year career speak for itself and trust that history would be fair. But LeBron's generation learned that history isn't always fair, that sometimes the loud ones get remembered while the quiet legends get overlooked. So who's right? That's the question everyone's been arguing about since Webber's comments dropped, and the answer might be that they're both are, just living in different worlds, playing by different rules, and neither one willing to admit the other has a point. Here's where things get really interesting, because as of right now, LeBron hasn't responded. Not publicly anyway. No tweets, no Instagram posts, no press conference comments, radio silence. And you know what? That might be the smartest move he's ever made, because responding to Webber would validate the criticism. It would turn this into a back and forth that LeBron can't win. If he defends himself, he proves Webber's point about needing validation. If he dismisses Webber, he looks petty and disrespectful to a Hall of Famer. If he stays silent, well, the silence speaks volumes too, but at least it doesn't feed the fire. But behind the scenes, sources close to LeBron say he's aware. Of course he's aware. You don't become LeBron James by not knowing what people are saying about you. And word is, it bothered him more than people think. Because for all the accusations of ego and self-promotion, LeBron actually does care deeply about how he's perceived by NBA legends. He grew up idolizing these guys. Their respect matters to him. The NBA community has been forced into a moment of reckoning. Veterans are being asked point blank, do you agree with Webber? Should LeBron stop calling himself the GOAT? And the answers have been fascinating. Some dodge the question entirely, some give diplomatic non-answers, but a brave few, have quietly nodded and said, I get what Chris is saying. This controversy has done something that 10 years of sports debate shows couldn't do. It's made people actually examine what we mean when we say greatest of all time. Is it just stats? Is it championships? Is it impact? Is it the eye test? Is it how you carried yourself? Is it letting others crown you versus crowning yourself? The truth is, the GOAT debate was always subjective. It was always generational. It was always about more than basketball. But Chris Webber just forced everyone to confront that reality. He held up a mirror to how we talk about legacy in the social media age, and not everyone likes what they're seeing. Webber's final message in that interview was actually kind of beautiful. After all the tough love, after all the criticism, he said this, I'm not trying to tear LeBron down. I'm trying to remind everyone, including him, that true greatness is humble. True greatness doesn't need constant affirmation. True greatness does the work, respects those who came before, and trusts that history will be kind to those who were kind to the game. Whether LeBron took that message to heart, we don't know yet. Whether this changes how he talks about his legacy going forward, only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, Chris Webber just said what a lot of people in and around the NBA had been thinking for years. And now that it's out there, now that the conversation's been forced into the open, there's no putting it back in the box. The GOAT debate will never be the same. And maybe that's exactly what needed to happen. So, that's where we are. Chris Webber just challenged LeBron James in a way nobody has before, not by questioning his talent, but by questioning how he wields his greatness. It's raw, it's uncomfortable, and it's forced every basketball fan to pick a side. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button because this story is far from over. Drop a comment below and tell us, is Chris Webber right? Should LeBron stop calling himself the GOAT? Or is Webber just a hater who can't handle modern confidence? Let's debate this thing out, because right now the entire basketball world is watching to see what happens next. Now here's the real question. When the dust settles and LeBron's career is finally over, will history remember him as the self-proclaimed GOAT who demanded respect, or as the undeniable GOAT who earned it? Drop your answer below, because this debate is just getting started.